Everyone is telling creators, don't rent your audience, you have to own it. The truth is, most creators can't, because as a creator, you don't dictate that, your audience does. Today's guest is Kevin Espiritu, founder and CEO of Epic Gardening, the world's largest gardening education platform. What started as a blog has grown into an $80 million product-driven business with millions of followers, hundreds of millions of views, and a global audience learning how to grow their own food. What makes Kevin different isn't just the scale, it's how he built it. And today, he's turned that into one of the most trusted creator-led empires.
If you think about monetization models on the internet, it'd be ad revenue, affiliate link, or maybe you get a brand deal. And I remember going, what would happen if my traffic went down or Amazon changed their affiliate commission or any of these things? I'd be in trouble. I'd be in serious trouble, you know? And so I remember thinking, all these brands keep hitting you up to do a deal. And I go, well, what do they want? Well, they want the access to the audience. What do I have? I already have the access to the audience. So why do I need the brand?
What I find fascinating about your creator journey is that you started out as a creator and evolved into an educator, expert, community builder, commerce creator, entrepreneur, and now a systems operator. You are now operating at the highest level. You have figured out how to build owned infrastructure around your audience. And Kevin, you do so much more than just teach people how to garden or plant their own food. You're helping them live a better life and to get closer to nature.
What's always kept me going, especially during more difficult times of running it, is you get these messages that'll come in. I've gotten some about people finding Epic at a dark time and gardening saved their life, right? And they'll say, oh, I'm like, no, you saved your own life. Those stories are more impactful than hitting your next 1 million subscribers.
Your creator journey started from an unexpected place. You were trying to break a video game addiction. You didn't start as a creator trying to find an audience. You started as the audience. You saw the problem firsthand, saw the gap, and built the resource you wish existed. Before Epic Gardening became a business, it was really just you trying to make a change in your own life. Take me back to that version of you.
That would have been, at least 13 years ago now. So 2013, 2012. And I had come out of college in 2009. I was going to be an accountant, or so I thought. I actually went into school undeclared and I just picked business economics because that's what you pick if you don't know what you're supposed to do. And then I did this accounting emphasis. But during college, I started playing online poker. That was the time when there was a guy named Chris Moneymaker. He won the World Series of Poker. He was a normal guy. And it set off this whole craze of people playing poker. And I was right in that age bracket of kids who got kind of obsessed with it. So when I turned 18, I put $100 on, went to college and had 2 lives basically. I was playing poker and then I was doing whatever with school. I was not a bad student. I just wasn't very engaged. So when I got out, I decided, hey, I'm going to try this poker thing for a little bit, see where it goes. 6 months in, I ended up quitting because I was like, I just don't want to live this life. I didn't want to live the life. There's a bunch of friends I knew in the space, in the scene, and they'd go to Vegas all the time. They'd play these tournaments and they'd be up all hours of the night playing these cash games. And I liked it more for the ability to earn an income during college and not so much the lifestyle of a pro poker player. So I looked at these guys who were maybe 26, 27 at the time. I was like, I just don't want to be that way when I'm 26 or 7. No shade against it, just wasn't for me. So I stopped. I quit cold turkey on one day and I had nothing to replace it with because I didn't go down the accounting path. And I had no plans to get a more traditional job. And so I kind of floundered after what do I actually do now? I don't have anything to fill my time. And online poker is kind of a video game in a way. And so when I grew up as a child of the internet in the 90s and I played games back then. And so I started playing games. I started playing games 6 to 8 hours a day, maybe a little bit longer some days. Took over my life and became very addicted to it. And my mom, she was concerned, as a mother would be. And my younger brother was coming home from college and she was like, you should do something with Brian this summer, out of the home.
She's like, you need to change your ways so that you don't influence him to become
basically, yeah. She saw the writing because my brother, he was a gamer too and he would come home and play in the summers and she didn't want to have 2 gamer boy sons.
Right, good.
And it's props to her for giving us that spark. But I remember pitching my brother. I was like, hey, Brian, you want to surf? You want to skate? What do you want to do? We're 2 SoCal kids, garden. And he goes, well, I think gardening would be interesting. And I was like, why would he have picked that out of like all the cool things I gave him, But we went down to the nursery. He got basil. I got cucumbers. And he grew really amazing basil that summer, like these big bushes. He pruned them. He made pesto. I grew these cucumbers in what's called a hydroponic system. So like this 5-gallon bucket with like grow light, like very scientific, very nerdy. But something about it, I just got hooked on it. And ever since 2013, I've gardened in some way or another. Obviously these days a lot more intensely.
You essentially replaced your video game addiction with a gardening addiction.
In a way, yeah.
That turned out much healthier.
I'm much happier. I'm much happier about this one. There is an irony about like trying to get off the computer by touching soil, but then building a digital-based business off of it, which I'm aware of, but I try to temper the two.
Yeah. And what I find really interesting is that when you started creating, you weren't a creator trying to find an audience. You were the audience.
Yes.
And you were doing a lot of research at the time to learn how to grow and how to plant things. And then you found that there was a problem. Like it was very hard for you to find information readily available. You saw that there was a gap, and then you built the resources that solved the problem. Is that kind of how Epic Gardening came
I mean,
to be?
pretty much, yeah. I started the blog, which was, at the time, it was called xponics.com, which was a very nerdy name because hydroponics, and then there's different ponics ways of growing plants. And so I was like, well, xponics seems cool, And so started the blog because I was designing websites to make a little spare cash. So I'd do like a WordPress design and make some money. And then it's like, well, what's a good business card for a WordPress website business is a website. And so I started the blog and just was kind of chronicling my little experiments. And I remember starting the YouTube channel because I wanted people to visit the blog. So I was like, well, if I put a video up, maybe they'll click a link in the description and go to the blog. Because back then, it's 2013. YouTube was very big then. Blogs were still very, very popular back then.
Right.
And that was my model for a while. And you're right. Like when I was trying to learn, how do I grow this cucumber? How does a plant respond to light? All these sort of things. I would keep getting pulled into like a university extension PDF type situation or like some sort of research paper, a botanical book. And the terminology was confusing to me. I didn't have any training in it. And it just felt like there's a better way to explain all this stuff. And so that's why I started the blog, kind of a mixed purpose, like explaining to myself and like almost a journal, like a true blog back in the day, and a bit of a calling card for what I thought was going to be like my main business, which was designing websites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think because you started out first as a creator who was learning alongside your audience that helped you develop a deeper connection with the community that you were building at that time?
Straight up, I couldn't say I was an expert because I just wasn't, right? And so I was like, well, if I can't lean on any sort of expertise, what can I lean on that endears me or that makes it more relatable? It's that I'm just the same as you, Maybe I'm just doing it a little bit more often because this is mostly what I do with my time. And someone consuming the content maybe more at the hobbyist level. But really back then I was a hobbyist. The only difference between me and the audience is that I would write about it or create a video. There was nothing else, Right. And so I would do videos. I remember, you can't see it on our channel anymore because I archived it. Maybe someone could dig it up. But I tried growing peanuts once. This was like 10 years ago now, maybe. And peanuts are a crop. It's a legume. The flower comes out of the plant and then goes down into the soil and forms the nut underground. So a weird plant. Just not a lot of plants do that. And it likes a lot of heat. So they grow well in the South. We're here in Southern California. It's not quite hot enough, not quite the right conditions. So I didn't get a good peanut harvest. And I remember the video is called Roasting My Pathetic Peanut Harvest. And it was literally 5 peanuts. Like I got
really?
5 little peanuts and I put them in this little thing and like roasted them up. So like I would make videos like that sometimes, or in the course of making a video, you'd see that the plant does not look perfect, right? I'm not a horticulturist by training. I don't have some production garden. Obviously things have changed these days because I've skilled up, but I've skilled up kind of in public with the people that have watched us. Yeah.
Well, and that's a big shift to go from beginner to expert.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember the moment when you made that transition?
I don't think I'm an expert even now.
Really?
I talked to Jacques about it, who's one of our creators. He was one of my original team members who has his own channel, and he's been growing for 6 years. I've been growing for 13. It's really only 13 seasons when you think about it. It's not that many repetitions. When you think about like, I don't know, skateboarding or something, you could go try a kickflip 100 times in a day. If you're growing tomatoes, like 13 tries, there's still so much to learn. So I think the seed of what Epic was, hey, I'm just having fun with this. I'm learning in public with you guys, and I'll try to explain things the best I can. We still try to take that forward today. So yeah, we know a lot about growing plants these days, and there's some things we're very confident about, but there's still stuff we'll mess up or we'll not understand fully, and we'll try to round that knowledge out on the channel every now and then.
Well, I think you're being humble because I don't think you could scale to where you are now without being a trusted authority on gardening.
Yeah, I think the way I think about it is just different. Like I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's an astrophysicist by training, telling you things that I know through my training, are true.
Right.
It's more of an experimental approach, but you're totally right. Like at this point in time, I do think I know how to grow a lot of plants, and I do think I can explain why they work, right?
Yeah.
Why this technique works or why this tomato does this.
Well, that's something I've seen in the creator space. The majority of the creators that I know who've become experts in their niche are self-taught. They taught themselves through creating content.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really interesting thing because that's also how you endear your community and how you learn alongside them. And they feel like they're in this journey together with you.
Yeah.
And they're not being talked to, but they're talking with you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a piece of feedback we'll get a lot, especially since we've been creating for a long time on YouTube now. I mean, 13 years is long in a YouTuber's lifespan, is we'll hear like, hey, I remember when you were doing this. I remember when you were talking about this. And now I used to never grow flowers, for example. Because I used to say, well, if I can't eat it, what's the point? I like growing edibles. And of course, as you experience more in the garden, you realize that flowers are integral to different ecosystems and even benefit the edibles that you grow. And so at some point I changed my tune on that and people remember like, oh, I remember when you were this way, now you're this way. It's cool to see your growth over time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had a full-time job for the first 3 years that you were running your blog and YouTube channel. And what was that moment when you decided to just take the leap into content creation full time?
It was kind of a, if I didn't, it would have happened for me type of scenario, I think. So I worked at a company called Book in a Box at the time. It's now called Scribe Media. It's like a hybrid of traditional and self-publishing. Really cool business. They put out some amazing books. I think I was the second employee there. And I went there, frankly, because the stuff that I'd tried running my own businesses, I just kept hitting a certain ceiling. I couldn't figure out how to either earn enough to really support myself or build a system that was more sustainable. I just felt like I was spinning my wheels a lot. And I had a startup that had just failed and I'd given up on. And so I was like really not feeling that great. And I was like, you know what? Let's go eat some humble pie and let's go work for someone who knows what they're doing. So I went there. It was kind of this rocket ship that grew really quickly. I learned a lot. It was like maybe 16 or 18 months I was there. And at the time, I remember thinking, it's not feeling the same here anymore. Not because the company's bad. It's just, I was doing so many different things early on. And as you grow, your roles get specialized. And I just didn't want to be doing just this part of that role. I kind of liked that breadth, but the company needed more specialists. And so it kind of came down to this point of like, if you don't want to move on, because it seems like it's your time, then we probably will move you on. You know what I mean? And so if you ask my old boss, Tucker, he would say he fired me. Factually, it isn't true. He did not actually fire me. I did quit. And I know that's like a trope, like, you can't fire me, I quit. I actually did decide to leave, but I guarantee in the next month or two, I probably would have been let go because I just wasn't the right fit for that company at that stage. I think my initial impetus for going into that company was I want to learn how a company is built. I saw a lot of that. I saw the company grow in team and in revenue. And then I said, okay, I guess it is time to see if I can do this. And I left. And actually, initially, I was going to farm in people's front yards. There's this really clever model that people were doing where they would take like 5 to 7 neighbors' front yards, farm them, give the neighbors like a CSA share, like a produce box out of their own yards, but everything else would go to restaurants or farmers markets.
Okay, so was that the original like business plan?
That's what I wanted to do when I quit. Yeah.
Okay.
And as I was researching that and trying to get that set up, I was like, well, I do have the Epic Gardening blog, an Epic Gardening YouTube channel. I think it was making $400 a month. I was like, if I can get it to $2,000 a month, then I could support myself, you know? So why don't I do that for a couple months and then I'll come back to here once there's more stability. That did happen in a couple months. I think the income maybe quadrupled or quintupled or something like that.
What shift happened for you to be able to
do that?
Grow that fast? Do you think it was just you were lead in?
I think it's a focus thing. Well, I had nothing else at that point, right? I had left. There was no going back to that old job. And I did feel like I learned a lot there. And I was like, oh, this is what I could do to grow it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just a much more like structured approach to growing it. Like think about a YouTuber, like you make 10 videos, one does really, really well. And you go, well, I should make more like that. You know, it's kind of approach of thinking about it. And then, yeah, that kept going. You know, that year was 2016. It went from $400 a month. I think by the end of the year, it was at $4,000 or $5,000 a month, which to me at the time, I was like, I'm making $5,000 a month on my own. Of course, this is revenue. It's not profit. Like we know this these days.
Right.
But back then I was like, wow, I'm living large. And so after that, I was like, let's see how this goes. I think there's some legs on this business instead of running the farming business. Cause I'm like, I can experiment with growing. What I want to do is grow stuff. So I can grow stuff and do this. I don't have to be a farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in those first 3 years, when you went full-time all in on being a creator, you grew exponentially. And you were at that time also very in tune with your audience. What was happening with your audience when you decided to take the leap from being purely a creator to becoming an entrepreneur and launching your first product?
I think a lot of it is maybe a bit of paranoia on my end, because if you think about monetization models on the internet, you have a blog. Well, we all know, if you're old enough at least, how blogs get monetized, ad revenue, and maybe an affiliate link or something like that. YouTube kind of was the same. It'd be ad revenue, affiliate link, or maybe you get a brand deal, but we just never did many brand deals. And so I was looking at the business at that time. This is the first couple of years when it was just a media business. And I remember going, what would happen if my traffic went down on the blog, or my views went down, or Amazon changed their affiliate commission, or any of these things, right? And the answer was always, I'd be in trouble. Like I'd be in serious trouble. And so I remember thinking, all these brands keep hitting you up to do a deal. Oh, I want you to talk about this product in front of my audience. And I go, well, what do they want? Well, they want the access to the audience. What do I have? I already have the access to the audience. So why do I need the brand? The problem is I didn't know anything about e-commerce. I didn't know anything about products. All I knew was there's a lot of products that you need in gardening. I use a lot of products. Some of them I really love. And why don't I just try to offer something like that to the audience? And as luck would have it, I think it's one of the cool parts about having a creator business is your audience and you are in this bit of a feedback loop. It's like this recursive loop. And so there'd be products that were in our garden at the time. This was my small garden in the olden days, 15 by 30 feet, a metal raised bed, just a container that you would put something in. And I actually didn't even know where I got them as a start. It just showed up at the door one day. And everyone was like, what are those things? There's corrugated metal, kind of cool look, at least back then. And I go, I don't actually know. I'm going to figure out who makes these. And so I emailed the manufacturer, I think like every other month for almost a year. So 2018 now. And they said, no. We already have someone selling them. We don't. And then 2019 came along and they're like, if you want to give it a shot, we're down. And so I said, okay. And I remember thinking I was crazy because the business had about 70 grand in the bank account, just saving for who knows, whatever could happen. And I spent 45 on a shipping container.
That's a huge financial bet.
Yeah, it was a huge bet at the time.
I mean, for an online poker player, I'm sure it was just another day for you.
Well, I mean, I never played stakes that high in poker, thank God, because I was not that good at poker compared to some of the other skills that I might have. But I just remember thinking, look, I know people want these. They're asking for them. What's my worst case scenario? I buy them for $45,000 and sell them for $45,000. Like they're not going to go for less than they cost. So worst case, I get really frustrated by like a 3 or 6 month project that kind of went nowhere, Best case, I don't know. This could really go, I remember I ordered them. I thought I was going to ship them to the port of San Diego, which does not accept containers. I didn't know that at the time. So they're on the water coming to America. I didn't know where to send them. And then I thought, well, how do you get them off the container? I talked to Costco, like self-storage at Costco. And I was like, can I unload a shipping? And they're like, absolutely not. So I just didn't know anything about e-commerce. I'm just trying to illustrate, like I did not know anything.
Right. How did you figure it out? Because that's a really hard equation.
Yeah.
Like I have this product. It's a big product. How do I get it in the hands of my audience who wants it?
I think I acted really, maybe in a traditional entrepreneurial fashion. I just kind of acted and then figured it out on the fly. But I remember calling a friend of mine who did sell product and he was like, you need to talk to like a third-party logistics company. Call these guys up. I called them up and they're like, yeah, we'll handle it. There's a freight forward. There's all these terms I learned, And the craziest part is I ordered them. So about 500 of these beds to start for that 45 or 35,000, whatever it was. I put them on Instagram. I said, hey guys, these beds you keep asking about, I finally have them. I only have 500. They're going to be here in about a month. If you want them, just swipe up. And there was a Shopify store that I made with just one product on the front page because there's nothing else, know? So I was like, well, I don't need a homepage. Let's just put that right there. And it sold out in 2 days.
Wow.
Just gone.
Just to put it into context, how much time had gone by from when they first voiced their demand and interest in this product to the time that you actually bought it?
Man, I would say probably around a year. because it took me a while to even get that relationship going. The manufacturer didn't want me to distribute them for a while because they already had someone. And then that person, I guess, fell through. But I remember going, is this real life? Like you could, because you can look at your Shopify dashboard and see the number and I was like, oh my God. So I used that money to pay for the container. And then I bought another one. And then I said, hey, you guys bought them really quickly. So here's more, and then they sold out again. And then I used that money to buy another one. So by the end of that year, I had 5 containers worth of that product sold. And of course, 2020 comes along. We know what happens in 2020, right? So having that all set up was a big stroke it was preparation, but it's also luck. I mean, I could have made that decision a year later and the business would be very different today,
A lot of creators make the mistake of launching their first product as something they want to launch that's more of a vanity project rather than something that their audience is asking for. In your case, you literally gave the audience what they had been asking for.
I just didn't know anything about making product. I'm not an engineer. I had ideas. I remember I had this whole spreadsheet of like things I could offer, but then I was like, well, how do I make it? You saw my level of unsophistication of even getting a product in. Making one would have been crazy. And so to me, it just felt like the most obvious play. And this was, at the time, this was a product that just didn't really have penetration in the States. So I was like, let's bring this here. This seems really obvious. And then we have now, as Epic has scaled up, we develop our own products, but that's a muscle that took some time to build.
Do you have any advice for creators who want to launch their first products, or even you've learned so much from that first product or the many products that you've launched since then? Is there like one key takeaway?
I think the most key to me is, are you going to become someone who's making products, or would you rather be a creator who partners with someone to make the products? Like these days, we have these trays, these seed starting trays we make. You need a mechanical engineer to design the tray in 3D. Then you need to send it to someone to make an injection mold. Like that has to be part of your team now. And if you're a creator making gardening videos, that's just not the field, And so I think when I see creator who do physical products, a lot of them take the route of partnering with someone who knows how to do it because they just don't want to, right? Or they don't know how, or they never will know how. And so I would say, if you really want to do it, there's great gains to be had. Obviously, our business has exploded primarily because we've offered products, but we've also gone all in on it. It's most of our revenue now, So our content team is much smaller than the rest of our company's team. And that's reflected in the priorities of like who we've hired. So I would say you need to it's real company stuff if you're making this kind of thing. Yeah.
That's a good segue into something that I've heard you say, that one of the earliest mistakes that you made in your journey as a creator was not scaling your team fast enough, and that you let the revenue scale faster than you did build the team and the infrastructure behind it.
Well, 2019 was the first year we did products, right? We did about $500,000, a little more than $500,000 in revenue. 2020 comes along, 2.8 million. 2021, 7.3 million.
That's
team
huge
size,
growth.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? And obviously the pandemic's involved and there's some confounding factors, but the team size did not change though. So it was me, Jacques, who was my gardener / warehouse manager at the time, my assistant, and a video editor and a writer for the blog still. That was it. I remember thinking back then, I was very proud. I was like, oh, lean team, look at this revenue. I'm destroying all these e-commerce people. You don't need all this. The truth is, I was right and I was wrong. You could run that business. You'd probably struggle and you'd have a lot of burnout. And I eventually did. Or you could be smarter and just start hiring strategically the people that you need a little bit faster than I did. Because 2022 came around and we raised some funding, which helped us hire for sure. But by the time we started to actually hire, the roles we needed were crazy. You needed HR. You needed a commerce director, because I can't do that and this create. And so, yeah, I think I could have been a lot smarter with hiring up a bit sooner and probably bringing on more strategic hires, someone who could take a lot more of the cognitive load off, because everything was filtering through my brain the whole time. And it would have been smarter to have more people at a high level that could help take a whole part of the business.
If you were to do it all over again, what would be the first hire that you would have made?
In the world of commerce, it would have been an operations person, just a rock solid, logistics, operations, warehouse management type, because it was fun to do it. I remember Jacques and I, one weekend, we went up and got our forklift cards. I bought a forklift with this double racked, was like a $50,000 I was like, this is so cool, you know? And I was driving it around.
Another toy to play
Yeah,
with.
just another thing. And we were literally forklifting like bales of straw because we started selling straw on the internet, which is crazy, but it worked. And we were like baling straw around and stuff. And that was a fun time for sure. But maybe as a second time entrepreneur, if I was doing it again, I would hire someone who knows how to run a warehouse, who's already forklift certified, who already knows logistics. And I'd say, this is your playground. You go play here. I'm going to go here where I'm better. But can I say I would do it differently? I don't know. I mean, it was fun, right? But doing it again, I don't think I would.
Do you think it was hard for you to let go and that part of your identity was so used to doing everything? Because you did mention one of the things that you liked while you were working at Scribe Media was that you liked doing everything. And then as you got promoted or grew within the company, it became more specialized and you kind of lost your interest.
I mean, I think a lot of entrepreneur, creator, founder types are going to have the struggle to let go of every piece. Classic YouTuber one is like, I can't have an editor. You know, it's like, I didn't have that one because I never really liked editing much, and our videos aren't that hard to edit or not that fancy, you know? But even then, when I hired my first editor who's still with us, I remember just going, wow, like I should have done that a long time ago. Anytime I think I should have done that a long time ago, it means I've held on too long, right? So like with the warehouse, with operations, all sorts of different things. I'm not the one who needed to do that. And it, you know, everyone talks about it's like, what's the thing only you can do? Focus on that, hire out the rest. I think it's a bit of both. Like I wouldn't have the knowledge of how problems might be cropping up in our warehouse today if I just never worked one ever. But did I need to do it for years? Probably not. I probably could have done it for 3-6 months and then hired.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the hardest leadership transition for you?
I think I'm probably still dealing with it. It's the people management of an organization is almost all of it after a certain point. I held on to that a lot in the early years post funding. And only recently have I started to say, I'm just not strong there. I can do it. And I don't think I do that bad of a job, but I'm not like a world-class people manager or operations leader, nor should I be. And so I think it's realizing that like once it's not just you and your little ragtag bunch of people running around, it's a lot more about like communicating the vision, getting everyone pointed in the same direction. And it's just a totally different skill set than like running around with Jacques being like, okay, I'm going to film this. You go down the warehouse and do that. Then we'll do this. Then we'll do that. Because the communication is just like instant. But with we're almost 60 people now, you can't run that way. So you have to have processes and structure and stuff. And that's just where I don't do as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's an important question that creators need to ask themselves because the idea of being a CEO sounds very cool, but the truth is it's a very different job that requires a very different skill set.
Yeah.
And most creators are not necessarily built to manage people. And once you start managing people, that takes up, like 80% of your time and moves you away from the creative side of creating content or harnessing your community and doing the more creative.
It's just what can only you do? If you're a creator, typically that's making media, making the content, unless you're now somehow developing talent out, which I think is smart too, but you're totally right.
I have a theory that there are 10 different creator archetypes. And depending on which archetype you are, it really is determined by the relationship your audience has with you. And that drives the trust, the connection, and ultimately determines what kind of opportunities and business models that can be unlocked around the relationship with the audience.
Okay, interesting.
And so if you were to look at it on a graph, the horizontal axis, and it starts with attention, authority, to trust, conversion, and then ownership. Someone who's really built an ecosystem. Most of the creators that we know who are household names, like Mr. Beast, and then it moves into different niches, let's say from educator to expert, community builder, to commerce, entrepreneur, and each one has a very different type of relationship with their audience. What I find fascinating about your creator journey is that you've moved through half of the 10 creator archetypes in such a short period. You started out as a creator and evolved into an educator, expert, commerce creator, community builder, entrepreneur, and now a systems operator. And that you've actually built owned infrastructure around your audience at the highest level.
Well,
And
I'll take it. I mean, thank you. I'll take it.
I look at it, it's this treasure that everyone is talking about now.
Mhm.
Everyone is telling creators, don't rent your audience. You have to own it.
Yeah.
The truth is, most creators can't because
Yeah.
as a creator, you don't dictate that. Your audience does. You have to earn the trust from them. They have to determine if you are at that level where they're going to buy from you or they're going to buy in and opt in to this ecosystem that you're building. And I find it so fascinating that you have moved through, it seems effortlessly on my end, but I
Yeah.
know it's so much blood, sweat, and tears that
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
gone into it. And so I'm just curious, from someone who's done it and one of the few people who's done it so well, what was that transition like for you moving from self-taught creator
Mhm.
and moving up that value chain to where
Yeah.
now you have this huge brand? And I would like to talk a little bit more about, the acquisitions and you getting outside investment, because I think that's a big part of the conversation we haven't had yet.
Sure.
So before we skip to the how was the transition, tell me a little bit about what was the process like for you when you decided to take outside investment?
That was crazy. I mean, obviously, I think investors are a weird species of creature of human that, they just operate totally differently than a creator would. Somehow you make enough money and they know you exist now, and so you start getting emails. And so I remember it's 2020, 2021, random emails start coming in. Hey, I'm this with this person. I want to do this with you. And I'd delete, and I would just delete. Because I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm living the way I want to live. I get to do whatever I want. And you hear this from pretty much any creator you talk to. I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do. That's why I became a weird YouTube person talking about watches or whatever. And so one of the times the email comes through and it just had a different flavor to it. It had a different tone. And I was like, okay, let's talk. And it ended up being the Turner Group who invested in like Barstool Sports, MeatEater. What drew me to them at the time was like, these are some brands that are acting out the thesis that I had, not to say I came up with it on my own, but I didn't know they were doing it when I was coming up with Epic's model. It was just what was making sense. Like, let's offer a product because everyone wants it. And so I was like, okay, well, if anyone does get it, it seems like these guys have built businesses in this area or can help to build businesses in this area. And I was staring down, this is 2021 now. COVID was going for 2 years, right? So it's like, is this going to keep being a boom? I don't know, Is lockdown going to stop? Who knows? Also, the operations of the business were getting complex. I own 2 warehouses, probably be paying 400, 500 grand in inventory. And I'd only ever have about $1 million in the banks. You're starting to get dangerous with your spends. It's like that 70K and 35K scaled way up, And so if anything goes wrong there, I just remember thinking like, if I mess up something in this moment, like maybe a product doesn't come on time or I have to refund a bunch, whatever it is, that's like existential. These people know what they're doing. They've seen this happen before. I just had this sense. I was like, I think I don't know what I don't know about running a business at this scale. I remember the early days of Epic, I only wanted to make 2 to 5 grand a month and just pay my bills. Then, of course, that happened. I was like, well, it'd be cool if it was $1 million business. I didn't grow up crazy wealthy or anything like that. I was like, this would make me free or whatever. And what a great way to do it, teaching people how to garden. And then it like blew past my ability to learn with it. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I think something's coming in 2022. I just can't even imagine what it is. Lo and behold, all sorts of different logistical things happened. We had a shipping error that came through. We ordered too much, right? Because demand, we were like, it's just going to keep going. And it didn't keep going as much.
So what happened in that moment when you did order too much? What were the results of that?
We just had to sit on it is the thing. I mean, in commerce, if you order too much, what are your options? You sit on it and you pay storage and your cash is now tied up in inventory, or you try to discount it to get it off the shelves. That's not ideal because now you're losing money because you made a mistake that's already losing you money, right?
Right.
You make a bad video, you just don't make that video again. You make a wrong order. We lost almost 100 grand once because we ordered too much at one time. The ports were tied up. The port workers were striking at the time. I can't control if they're striking or not. So now I'm paying drayage and demurrament fees at the port, just waiting because they're just sitting there. So we ordered 16 containers and we're paying $500 a day on 16. For how long? Who knows? Every day it's 8 grand. Long story short, I decided to partner up because I was like, I think there's a real shot at building something much larger than this, but I don't think I have enough resources to do it or knowledge. And I could tap into all these different companies that have done it before. And so it was more a play of like, I think I just need to help.
For creators who really only understand revenue from brand partnerships and ad revenue, what can you explain to them about what it really meant for Epic Gardening to take this money?
It's almost a philosophical question for creators, because if you're taking investment, a portion of your company is being sold, right? And so now you're bringing on a partner, and now any partner, there's a relationship, and there's sometimes you agree, sometimes you don't. In our case, we've always agreed. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but if you're the type of creator who just doesn't want any of that influence at all, you kind of can't do it. You got to stay pure. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I look back, I go, I wonder what that path would have been like.
To not
To not. Not that I don't regret it. It's just, it would be interesting to know. I think it's also very much like a category or niche dependent thing.
Since you started working with the Turn-In Group, what have you been able to unlock with your business that you weren't able to before?
I mean, the most obvious answer is we had cash to do something besides just buy more product. Because every month it would be buy product, sell product, have no money. You're on a cycle.
So what did you do with the cash?
So the biggest thing that we did is we purchased a seed company called Botanical Interests, which ironically was the first seed pack I ever grew way back when. It was those cucumbers.
Wow.
So
That's very full
very,
circle.
very full circle. This is their hat right here. And I remember we were in the running with a bunch of other companies that they wanted to buy it as well. So you're like bidding for it. And I'd never done that before. So that was kind of exciting, but like harrowing. And I remember thinking, well, I don't think we have the most money to give them, but we do have the most heritage to keep that company going. Because a lot of the other companies that wanted to buy a seed company was another seed company. What do you think they're going to do, right? Probably cost savings. In our case, we didn't have a seed company, and so we needed everyone on the team. And I wore this hat in YouTube videos for 6 months. And I would send the founder, I'd say, hey, like this new video came out, what do you think? And he'd always see the hat. And I was like, maybe this will make a difference. I don't know. And so by the time we actually did win the bid, and it was not the highest bid.
Really?
And I said, I really appreciate you guys trusting us with the company. Like we'll make sure that we do our best by it, et cetera. And he said, you don't know how much wearing that hat helped. Literally. And I was like, I knew it. I was like, I'm going to use the only strength I have. This is the media, So I'll show my commitment to it by doing it that way. And I think I'd be the same way if I had built a business for 30 years and someone really shows they care about the actual business and not just like the money of it. I'd probably go with them too,
What I say to creators who are interested in getting more brand partnerships is you have to be a genuine fan of the brand and show them that you're a fan.
Yeah.
You did that exact same thing, but on an entirely different level
Yeah.
of, I want to buy your company and I am a fan of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And that's incredible that for 6 months that you wore that hat and that you were speaking to them human to human, like business and money aside. It's, I like what you're doing. I almost said I want to get in bed with you.
in a plant bed, in a raised bed. I want to get in a raised bed with you. Yeah.
Into a raised plant bed. The only one that you can buy on Epic Gardening.
Exactly.
What have you not done yet that you want to achieve or master?
Man, I mean, what I should have done, something I regret a bit after raising capital. I don't regret it because we did buy the seed company. That's been fantastic for us and it's been great for the brand and we've been able to carry that on. Sometimes think maybe I should have peeled a little bit of it off because I really want to buy a nursery. I want to own a nursery somewhere. It's great to be here. This is a home I bought in 2020 with just personal funds back then. And I thought this is a bigger story to tell about gardening. I can grow more here. It's pretty full now, 6 years later. And so I've always thought, well, why not have an Epic Gardening nursery? Maybe there's only ever one. Not saying it's going to be some big chain or something, but that would be much like the Bon Appetit test kitchen, right? Or any of these channels or media properties that have their studio or their stage. That would be our stage. So it'd be like a retail space, but you'd staff it up with passionate gardeners who may or may not become the next star, right? And that's thinking about like succession as a creator too, because 13 years in, it's like, I like making videos. Sometimes I want to go on a trip,
That would be a really cool series or IP
Yeah.
around building the nursery
Oh, it'd be killer.
and the
Yeah.
whole story behind it and the people
The people.
there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And also the stories of the customers and the people who come in, because
Yeah.
that's also something I want to talk to you about is the psychological relationship that you have with your audience.
Mhm.
Because you're doing more than just introducing them or teaching them or showing them how to plant their own food, but you're helping them live a better life and to get closer to nature. there's the whole healing aspect of having your hands in the soil. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what kind of feedback or what kind of experience have you seen with your own community that has shown
Man.
you like
Yeah.
really like that deep level of relationship that you have with them?
I think anyone who's building like a passion-based business, something they care about, and they're not just kind of doing it because it's an opportunity type thing, you're always wrestling between like the mission of it, and then there's just the reality of running a business too, right? And you want to make a living for yourself too. And so there's these cool milestones that you might hit that you just mentioned, some of the more businessy maybe a revenue number or this or that. I remember hitting those and being like, I'd celebrate. I'm like, this is cool, you know? But those things, you kind of hedonically adapt to most of it, right? And life just becomes kind of normal again. I remember thinking like hit a certain milestone in a personal sense. And I remember thinking like, is that really all that would feel like? Is that I feel like it would have been cooler than that, you know? And then I thought, well, if I feel this way now, I'm probably going to feel that way whatever next milestone comes, you know?
So even with each milestone, they didn't feel as significant.
I remember when I hit my 100K, I was like, this is probably the only thing I'm getting from YouTube. I'm not going to hit 1 million, you know? And so I celebrated.
How did you celebrate?
Back then, man, I don't remember. On 100, I don't remember. On 1 million, I think I ate a cheesecake. I think I just ate
full
I think I
cheesecake?
ate like I love cheesecake. I think I ate a whole cheesecake, and I probably like almost threw up after something. But no, I just remember thinking like, okay, these are all great and they're significant, but I have to find something that isn't just hitting the next thing. Otherwise, what am I doing this for? You know what I mean? So what always kept me coming back to that was the audience, right? And what the comments we would get.
What did you learn through that process that most creators don't understand about raising money?
Get the best lawyer you could possibly get. If you're doing a deal for a significant sum, it's probably going to be the most meaningful financial transaction you'll do. And so I think it makes sense to pay the best people. It's like the e-commerce story. I did not know what I didn't know as far as raising capital goes. I had never done it before. Well, I guess I had, but it was like a friends and family thing at the old startup. It wasn't anywhere near this scale. And so I got a top 10 law firm lawyer, killer. And that made all the difference. All the difference. Hey, what does this term mean? What does this mean? What happens if this happens? What happens if this happens? Explained it in plain English. And then I was like, okay, well, here are my tolerances of what I would accept or be willing to give up. And here are theirs. I think, and this is not a TCG thing, they did not do this, but I think some people in the creator space who are seeing this opportunity, they know, and I think it's true that some creators and most of us aren't as savvy in that world. It's not what we do. And so I think they try to come at you with maybe not the most favorable deals. They might try to lock you down or your licensing is owned by them forever, whatever the thing might be. Honestly, get the best lawyer you can get and explore, take that deal around and see, is there interest? Does someone else want it, right? I mean, it's going to expose you to the market forces and most of the time that turns out well for you.
So how did you find that lawyer? And was it a certain specialty law that you were looking for?
Yeah, like a startup, like venture capital, private equity, growth equity type lawyer at a reputable firm. So in my case, it was a lawyer from Cooley who was great. Yeah, I mean,
that's one of the first lawyers I hired for the first creator I worked with 15 years ago.
They're killers, man.
Yeah,
they're killers. And they'll go straight at. I mean, it's a lawyer. It's one of those lawyers. They're top dogs, and so they'll go straight. I mean, I was on some tense calls, you know, and obviously we're all friends now. It all worked out, but like, man, some of those calls, like, is this how it is at this level? And that is how it is at that level. And so I wasn't prepared for that. And if I had gone in trying to do my own deal, I would have been railroaded, you know?
100%. And, you know, I went through that exact same experience where Cooley represented my client, and it was around this creator's trademark and their name. And this massive, huge global company wanted to own her trademark.
Take her trademark.
And I remember Cooley was like, they just kept fighting and fighting it. And it's important to have people who are experts who can translate it for you, but they're going to go to bat and they're going to protect you. No one else is going to protect you unless you hire them to look out.
Yeah, and I think also in that case, if someone is really seriously going down this road, that is their job. They're there to protect you, and they're there to have these conversations that would be probably detrimental for you to have yourself. Because let's say the deal does work out with a potential investor or whatever. You don't want to recall the time you were screaming at them on the phone because they did this or you want to do that, right? So it's nice to have the lawyer as a buffer. Plus, like, this is a legal document, right? Like, you need someone who knows what they're doing.
Early on, you've said that you didn't identify as a YouTuber or a creator. You were just doing the work. And in some ways, that lack of identity didn't limit you. It actually gave you the flexibility needed for you to evolve. Then over time, that identity shifted from creator who was experimenting to educator to entrepreneur, and now as someone who's built a significant business.
I think so. It sounds kind of like philosophical almost, but I do think there's something real to it because I started out as a blogger, right? And I would say I did consider myself to be mostly a blogger slash entrepreneur back then, but not so tightly that that's all I would ever be. Even while I was making YouTube videos, I would say up until 2019, 2020, I wouldn't have called myself a YouTuber. I was publishing not super regularly every now and then. I wasn't like all in on trying to really perfect YouTube. I kind of had a lot of different things going. And then at one point I said, no, I am a YouTuber now. And it would have been 2020 when pandemic happened. And I remember texting my editor and I was like, we're real YouTubers now. We're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Because everyone had schedules back then, you know?
Right.
And so over time, I've adopted different sort of labels, but I try to keep it to like, I'll be what's needed for this moment of time. So it's like in 2022, that was, I need to be a hiring guy and I need to be on hiring and interview calls a lot. And I need to be an operator in the warehouse and learn logistics. I'll just do whatever's needed. And I think it's not even a good or bad thing. They just don't want to do that, right? Like they're less drawn to the business side of things,
Right.
perhaps.
What label do you identify with today?
Probably the closest is like a creator entrepreneur, I guess, because our business really does live and die off the back of that. We have a trusted audience still. These businesses, they're like inverted pyramids, right? I know Colin and Samir have this whole thing of the inverted pyramid where take like a Mr. Beast, like he's at the bottom. So if that topples, the whole pyramid falls versus a CEO's at the top and it goes down. It's a great way to start a business. Can a business continue that way forever? Unlikely, because the creator ends up having too much pressure, basically.
Kevin, you do so much more than just teach people how to garden or plant their own food. You are showing them how to live better, how to take control of their lives, how to reconnect with nature. And I'm really interested to learn more about the psychological connection that you have with your audience.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories or any moments with your community that really speak to that closeness that you share with them?
I mean, I think up until 2019, I responded to every comment on every platform.
Really?
Yeah, and because I thought, I am not Neil deGrasse Tyson talking, so I do need to kind of ingratiate myself with the audience, try to help them as much as I can. I thought if I can help them out, maybe they will follow along, right? And so obviously that broke down as the audience grew, but as you hit certain milestones business wise, I think those are great personally or professionally for your own kind of life goals. But at some point you also go, well, if that's all I'm doing it for, then what am I doing? And so what's always kept me going, especially during like more difficult times of running it, is you get these messages that'll come in, and every creator has their stories of these messages that'll come in. I think gardening is an interesting one because you might get into it because you want to teach your kid, or because you're depressed and you need mental health support, or maybe you just want to eat healthier and have a nice hobby for physical activity. So you'll get messages from people on any of those topics, but because people really connect with you online, you'll get really just wild messages that keep you going, And so I've gotten some about people finding Epic at a dark time. And then especially during the pandemic, some people, maybe they lost someone in the pandemic or this or that, and gardening saved their life. Right. And they'll say, oh, I'm like, no, you saved your own life. We just were there. I made a couple videos, you watch the videos, but some of them are just wild. Like some of them really stick out. This guy, Stuart, who I talked to for quite a while after he told me the story, was on Twitter. He put me in like a private chat and like messaged only me on Twitter. And I thought it was like spam or I was like, what is going on with this guy, Stuart? This whole story, his wife had left him, but his daughter had passed away in some sort of, I believe, cancer or something like that. But I guess he and her really liked the channel, and she was gardening along with him. And then I don't know what it was, some sort of terminal illness that unfortunately she got struck with and just did not make it. But she would watch Epic on her iPad in the hospital. And that's just what helped her through that time, I guess, And then the crazy part is Stuart's life didn't go so well for him after that. He had a lot of struggles. I mean, that's just a hard thing to deal with, right? But other things happened and he just really was not in a great place. And he wrote me, and this was like a year after maybe his daughter had passed, and he opened up the iPad because he hadn't looked at it in a while. And our videos were there playing. Yeah, we did like a little fundraiser for him, and those stories are more impactful, than hitting your next million subscribers or whatever. So yeah, that kind of stuff keeps you going when like maybe you're not feeling that good either,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you get to honor her memory by keeping at it and keep doing what you're doing? Not just her, but every single
I
person
think
that you have helped.
it's almost like if that could happen, if you could provide that, that's enough. The business stuff, great. We're going to keep doing that like that. You kind of have to, but like that's the real sauce behind it that would keep you going. It's like the eternal flame, that kind of keeps it going.
Right.
Yeah.
I think with that, knowing that so many people do rely on you, especially during those intense times of need, that carries a weight to it.
Yeah.
Do you feel also this deeper sense of responsibility that you have to keep going because all of these people rely on you?
I think I did feel that more in the past because you'd get those types of stories and you're like, well, I can't stop. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I learned in my own way that you also can't keep going endlessly like that forever. We already talked about how I underhired, overworked it, was doing all these different roles. Yeah, I think I've learned to say it's okay to rest and like do what you want to do too. So I've taken up hobbies. This was supposed to be a hobby of mine, Roni, like,
Right.
of course. So this is no longer, I love it, but it's not a hobby anymore.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because that happens, I think, with a lot of people who become very successful at the one thing they love most.
Yeah.
Is then it becomes work.
Yeah. Exactly.
And at some point, then you have to find a new passion, a new hobby. And so when did you start intentionally figuring that out, that you needed to fill your light?
It took me longer than I would have hoped. I would say only in the last year or so have I started developing like other other hobbies, like interests in life, So I started getting back into music here and there, just playing some guitar just for fun. But I think the most important part is there's no goal to hit. Like I started teaching myself to draw again, and I did start tweeting them out and selling my drawings, but mostly because I just had too many of them. I wasn't trying to make money from it, I just had too many. And anyways,
I have to buy one before I leave here.
oh, I'll give you a drawing for sure. No, I just it was like foreign concept after that many years to do something just for its own sake, which is so ironic because like the whole thing that hopefully the audience is getting from at what we do at Epic is garden for its own sake. It's enjoyable. It's fun. If you come home from work, you can blow off some steam with this. Who cares if the tomato's not perfect? Just eat it. It's fine, So we're teaching it, but I was not living it because it became so all-consuming.
What happened in your life where you decided all of a sudden that you need to make space for things that you love that are just fun for play?
I just started having crazy amounts of anxiety. And I'd never really had it until maybe 2021 or 2022. I started having panic attacks.
That surprises me because I look at the most intense part of your career as a creator, like when you were figuring it out, there was no roadmap. As you grew from creator to operator, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that transformation and stepping into leadership of that scale. How did you deal with that pressure and how did it affect you mentally?
There's some health things that were going on. The foundations of some bad health stuff was being laid. I didn't know it at the time though. So I got diagnosed with sleep apnea last year. I had no clue and I probably have had it for 4 or 5 years. OCD, I have a diagnosis for that. I don't know that I would say I'm someone with OCD. I don't like to make it an identity thing. But that sleep apnea, atrial fibrillate, I had all sorts of things started to crop up. And I was like, dude, if I don't stop going at this pace, then it really might not turn out well for me. I got sent to the ER because of the atrial fibrillation one day. My girlfriend at the time, Jacques on the team, my mom, different family members are like, I don't really know how you're doing all this. And I was like, what do you mean? This is just life. I don't know. This is easy, because I was just in it. When you're in the flow, I never had the chance to step out and look, right? So if you don't step out and look, then it's all normal. But then the second you're forced to step out and look, I look back and I go, honestly, the way I was operating 2020, 2021, I literally couldn't do it today. It's not possible for me to do it at that level today. I would not be able to. Maybe I'm just older and wiser now and I would have hired more or something. But I actually think I was running myself ragged without understanding that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so your body needed
My body straight up failed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a signal that they were telling me, like your body told you, hey, you got to stop.
You got to stop. Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
has that been hard for you now that you are resetting and having to reconfigure? It's one thing to say, okay, this is affecting my health. I need to change.
Yeah.
And then it's another thing to actually make that mental shift and actually be okay with not doing everything and not operating like full steam all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think I go in and out, of if something really needs to get addressed, then you got to do it. But I have a great team now, right? I didn't have a scaled out team. I had a great team, but it wasn't enough people. So now it's just like trusting that people are going to do right by the company, right? And like which fires actually need to be put out by me type thing, because I think as a founder, or creator, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, you're always like, I'll put out any fire anytime, no matter how big or small. But then you can step on your team members and they're like, I had that under control. Like you just needed to wait 2 hours and you would have never even seen it, So some of that, and then just, realizing you can go on a vacation and not work when you're on the vacation,
And have you done that?
Sometimes, yeah.
Wait,
Sometimes.
you were once telling me that you're going to Japan.
Okay, that's different though. That's different. So here's the thing about Japan.
Right.
I'm going to Japan. I'd never been in 15 years. Last time was 15 years ago. That was before Epic started. If I'm going to Japan, a culture of perfectionistic growing, you better believe I'm making a couple of videos out there. But do I have 2 weeks reserved for not doing things? I do. So I'm going to be going and I'll enjoy my time in Okinawa, eating sushi and walking the beaches. And
Well, it's hard to turn it off when you are doing something you love.
Mhm.
When you're in that kind of place, I'm sure there's so many ideas that are just,
Yeah, especially when you can relax, the ideas start to come. Wait, if you can actually chill, you're like, oh, we should be doing that. I came up with a series idea like when I was relaxed once. It was our What to Grow in April, May, June, these monthly planting guides.
Mhm.
And that's been a great series for us. So like, you're totally right. Like sometimes working is not working and allowing whatever comes to come while you're doing just like normal life stuff,
Yeah. I remember I was at the Cannes Lion Festival in 2010, and there was a speaker session I went to, and the guy was talking about how important it is to play.
Yeah.
For an audience full of creatives, it was really about to be creative, you need to play because that is where creativity happens. Creativity doesn't happen when you're working nonstop. You have to make space for that. And that's really when you open yourself up to it.
Yeah.
And that's when the best ideas happen. So
I take a lot of walks these days. Yeah. Take a lot of walks and just wander around and then stuff. So it's weird because it's like, well, kind of that's work too, in a way,
I know.
But no, it's just if it comes, it comes. You're totally right. Like some of those, you hear all those stories about all the famous people of old discovering certain things in the bathtub or the shower or this or that. Because the mind has to not be focused on, I need to do this because I have to do it so bad and it's going to be, you let it go and then it will pop something up.
Do you feel like in your heart you identify more of the creative aspect of being a creator?
These days, yeah. I think back in the day before I really got some of these business concepts down, I still think that that's creative. Personally, I still think the way you express how you would build a business in your world, that's a creative act to me. But yeah, there are some things these days that like, as I taught myself to draw or played more music, or I'm like, I could mix that. I did a video on pruning grapes where I drew the pruning diagrams on the video. And it was like, wow, that was really helpful. I was like, I could not have done that unless I cultivated the skill just for its own sake. I found an application for it in Epic, but I illustrated one of our seed packets because our seed packets are all hand illustrated. And so, yeah, like it shows up sometimes, but I'm not like doing it to level up the business.
I think that's an important thing to do is to integrate other aspects of you into your business because it's coming from a true place.
Well, it's like, I think Steve Jobs did that convention speech like in the 90s or something where he talked about you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And he had taken a calligraphy class in college and everyone's like, what do you do? This is like pointless, But then once he created the first user interface for the Mac, the fonts became important. And there you go, right? It gave him the aesthetic of this particular font. I'm probably misremembering the story, but you can always find a way to use a skill.
I think it goes even beyond that. It's your identity and who you are as a person, and your heart is a huge part of what epic gardening is. And it's the reason why epic gardening has become what it is today. If you are more intentional about incorporating or finding ways to show up in your brand
Yep.
with other pieces or parts of you that you are discovering now on your journey, is part of the evolution of epic gardening.
Yeah, I mean, it's bringing a lot more fun to it again, right?
Right.
I think every kid's dream now is to be a YouTuber or something, and it's like, I don't know if I'd recommend it, you know? But yeah, I mean, there's times when it's really fun, and there's times when it just isn't as fun. And so bringing some of this new stuff in has helped.
So wait, let me ask you, what would you say if your number one fan came up to you?
Okay.
Let's say they're 16 years old and they said, I want to be just like you. I want to become a YouTuber. What advice would you give them?
I guess I would say, why do you want to become a YouTuber first? Because the answer to that would give me the answer to what advice I would give. Because if someone, like, when I was a kid, it was like, I want to be a rock star or a movie star, right?
Right.
Obviously there's astronaut and pilot, but in the world of entertainment, right? And so why would most average kids want to be a movie star? Because you'd be famous and rich, right? So new media, whatever you want to call our world, that is that now. So I want to be Mr. Beast, or I want to be this. It's like, well, why? Well, then I'd make so much money and I'd be rich. It's like, well, then that's not a good reason to do it. I mean, I made over 150 videos before I hit 100K subs, maybe. And that's a long time ago now. I wrote 400 or 500 articles on the blog. Those drivers won't make you do those actions. You know what I mean? So you have to have something deeper than that. If they had a good answer for that, I would say, well, then just start creating right now. And everything you put out, learn something from why it's good or bad, and don't do those things again and make it better. Which you hear from a lot of YouTubers, just continually make something better.
So it's really about the purpose and the why.
I think so. Otherwise, just go be an investment banker or something. You make way more money than the average YouTuber by far, if that's what it's really about. Which is fine. If you want to make a lot of money, I would say probably don't be a YouTuber. There's easier ways to make more money than that.
Well, it's ironic considering that you have made a lot of money.
Yeah, but I'm very lucky, you know. I'm very lucky in the way that it all played out. Like, if I didn't set up the business before COVID, it wouldn't be this way, right? Or if I didn't start as early as I did, maybe it wouldn't be this way. Who knows, right? I don't know. There's just like, no one's self-made, but you're also totally self-made in some way. Like, if you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen. But you have a lot of help along the way, and sometimes it's just random chance, you know.
All right, Kevin. So please tell everyone listening and watching where they can follow you.
Well, if you like gardening, epic gardening, anywhere on the internet. If you don't like gardening, but you like me for some reason, you can just follow me on Twitter. It's just Kevin Espiritu, my name. Actually, I also have a personal YouTube channel now, which is also just my name. So if you want videos that have nothing to do with gardening, then you could follow me there too.
And I follow you there, and I recommend everyone to follow you.
There you go. Yeah, my next 100K sub plaque coming in soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.